On this episode of Carnage, we're ditching the A340 that we were planning to put in the Lexcen, replacing it with this Transbrake Turbo 400 from the Trollvo. Gather round kiddies, because Uncle Scotty has a tale to tell. Cast your minds back 6 weeks ago when we had the A340 bolted up to a 1UZ engine and bolted it into our Lexcen, and I made up a transmission mount and everything was looking great with the world, and we thought, why don't we get this A340 looked at? It is just the standard box out of the Sora. It's probably had a hard life with Zane and his mates thrashing it in paddocks and that sort of thing. So we thought, all right, why don't we take the 340 off and get it strengthened, and that's when our ideas all sort of crumbled into a sad and sorry heap. That's because when we talk to the transmission specialists, they're looking at it and going, it's an A340, you're going to put a turbocharged V8 in front of this thing. With that sort of torque, the A340 is a small transmission, it's not designed for that sort of torque, and it will probably die, and die rather quickly. And you're going to pour thousands of dollars into this box and it will still probably die. You need to do like a Turbo 400 or a 4L ADE or something like that. And I said, well, we do have a Turbo 400. And they're like, well, if you get an adapter for that, that would be the way to go. Well, it's already got a removable bell housing. And they're like, why are we even talking about this then? You know, go get a bell housing for your Turbo 400, use that, and that's just the way it should be. I mean, cool, all right. So we have our Turbo 400 from the Trollvo. If you remember this box from years ago, I mean, it's obviously out of the Trollvo. It is good for 1200 horsepower. It's built by Simon at All Fast Converters and Transmissions in WA. Simon is the king, man. He's done the transmission in the Trollvo, the transmission in the MX-5. If you're looking for a heavy-duty drag strip transmission, Simon is your man, all right? So All Fast Converters in WA, they are the guys to talk to. So, like I said, 1200 horsepower capable. It is trans-braked. This thing can handle some heavy-duty power and launches. I mean, you've seen the Volvo pointed at the sky off the start line. This thing is a killer transmission. So then we've gone and bought a bell housing. So this is a bell housing from Dello in New South Wales. Now, they don't do a bell housing that goes 1UZ straight to Turbo 400. In fact, no one seems to do it, you know. There's a few adapter plates and that sort of thing, but bell housing's kind of hard to come by. So they do a bell housing that goes from 1UZ to reed case power glide or reed case Turbo 400, same bolt pattern. And so we've got an adapter here, came from the US, that goes from reed case power glide and Turbo 400 to normal Turbo 400, all right? So the outer bolt pattern is the reed case pattern, the inner bolt pattern is Turbo 400, all right? So that adapts to our bell housing, and that will then bolt to our transmission. So we'll have to unbolt this bell housing very carefully, and so we don't disturb the pump drive, and then get this one on there, bolt it all up, seal it all up, and we'll be good. Still, we've got to do some things with this bell housing because it's a little bit thick in this rim here, and when you put a bolt in there, the nut, like there's not enough thread that comes through, so we need to fix that up. But obviously it is the right bell housing, the starter's at the top. It's going to be great for our 1UZ and should give it a long and healthy life. So we're just taking some photos for Mill of the Month at the moment. We've got Ellen here from the magazine shooting some cool photos. Okay, so Ellen's done with her photos, and while all that was happening, I was having a chat to Simon at All Fast, and I mentioned about the nuts in here and clearance issues and how it's going to be with the converter, and he's basically said, well, how about put it all in a box. We still have the box this arrived in, so we'll stick it back in its box, put that in the box, and send it all back to Simon, and he's going to get that onto there, make sure all the pump arrangement is fine, probably do a check over on the box, and also build us a converter because he needs to know all the spacing and everything for the converter as well. And then he can box it back up and send it back to us in a couple of weeks. So we're going to do that, which means I'm back to the wiring. No, why? Oh, wiring sucks. I love it when they actually work. Right, well, there's the cabin side of our loom. There's our plug. Now I just have to make the bit that goes from there to the engine. That's going to be fun. Right, so we have made a very good start on our engine loom. We've laid out all our wires, we've tied them in groups, and it's all looking pretty good. So there's all the wires that go off to our firewall plug. Now, each injector needs 2 wires, each coil needs 3 wires. At the moment, I have trigger wires for all the banks, but I have to splice out the power wires. So they only give you 1 power wire for 8 injectors and 1 power wire for 8 coils, so you need to splice them out so into groups. And then we also have to lay in some earths for the ignition coils as well. So because, you know, this motor was never a coil and plug motor, we're doing that, so we have to add that to the loom. But that's all right, we can make it happen. So splicing wires is always a bit of fun. When I say fun, that's fun with a capital F. And yeah, we just need to get in and do it. Stop looking at it. Let's splice some wires. Is that gonna work? Ooh, that feels pretty good. Time for the world's worst heat gun. Right, so we've made some progress off camera, and I have covered our loom in heat shrink and sheathing, and split out all our spliced wires. So, you know, I spliced out those power wires, as I said before, spliced out the earths. So now we have 3 wires running to each coil position, 2 wires running to each injector position. The injectors are in place as well. I had the injectors all flow matched and balanced by the guys at Quick Bits. Just so we had 12 injectors from previous injectors from the Trollbo and from the MX-5. They're like 1000cc injectors that we had laying around. So I took all 12 down to Quick Bits, got them to flow everything, and then build a match set of 8 out of that, which is what we have. So they're all within like 1% of each other, so really good. And so now they're in the manifold, we are ready to terminate all our injector plugs, all our coil plugs, all our sensor plugs. It's going to be a terminating frenzy. Right, that's one plug down, 7 to go. We've got that in the right order. So we've got our signal, ground, and then power from right to left. Right, let's zap the heat shrink and move on. Click. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, that's one set of coils done. Now we'll do the injectors and then we'll move over the other side. Problem with this stuff is it is just time consuming. You just got to make sure you nail every crimp, get it all right, because if it's wrong, you're going to be chasing problems later. So just spend the time, do it right, but it is coming up pretty good. Pretty happy with it so far. So the best thing about doing injectors are they are not polarity conscious, but it's just a good idea to terminate them all the same way. But we'll just slide our heat shrink on, slide our little booty on, and get our little insulators in there. So I've been powering through our injectors and coils. They're all done except for one of my connectors only had 2 pins. So we have to order a new connector for that. That's fine, we need 3 pins. But now we're into the sensors, and I thought I'd show you this sensor in particular because this one's terminated a little bit different in that you actually have to push the wires through the connector, terminate the terminals on the end of the wires and then pull them back into the connector. All right, so it's something to watch out for, especially with these GM Delco style plugs. All right, so which is what we've got here. Now I'm just making sure I've got the right side, so that goes that way. So sensor goes into there and signal into this side. When you're trying to work out how much you need to strip, just have a look at your connector, analyse where it's actually clamping onto your conductor, and you can work out pretty quickly how much conductor you need to bear off at the end of your wire. So only need about 3 to 4 mil on there. Alright, let's have a look. Give it a little test tug, it's all good. Okay, so we've got those seated. We'll just push our little waterproof grommet up into the back. Get our heat shrink there. Oops. So I'll probably cut that connector just a little bit longer than I like. I can go back and redo that with a fresh connector later if I want, but it's fine for the moment. So we've got a heap more to do. We've got TPS, we've got cam signal, inlet air temp, fuel pressure, bunch of others, but we are hooking through this Loom and I'm pretty happy with the result. But we're not going to make you sit through a whole bunch more of this stuff. I mean, as far as you're concerned, you might as well say the Loom is done. Before you take on a job like this though, make sure you get the right tools. So we bought these from Howtech, and they are perfect for the job. And if you're going to take on a job like this, definitely get the right tools. And even grab one of these harness sleeve packs from Howtech. They come with a whole bunch of heat shrink and sheathing and that sort of stuff in various sizes. It's been invaluable in doing this harness, I've got to say. So I'm going to keep hooking into this. We're going to get it done, and then we'll get the engine in the car, and we've got to get the transmission away to Allfast over in WA, which means we're still probably a couple of weeks from having this running, but the engine will be done, the harness will be done, it'll be in the car, so we'll just wait for that trans to come back, and you're going to see all that on a future episode of Carnage.